When it comes to training for a big running goal, there tends to be three approaches. The first is you don't plan, you just run when you can and you hope for the best when you get to that start line. The second is to pick up a magazine, find a plan in a magazine that's going to work for you. And the third is to get in contact with a running coach and work out a bespoke training plan that is perfect for you and your goals. Now, as a running coach, you might expect me to say, always work with a running coach. That's going to be the best for you. But I know not everybody wants to work with a running coach. Not everybody can afford to work with a running coach. And actually, the plans in magazines do have a place and can work very well for you. They're often written by coaches. They will be written with a certain kind of runner in mind. So you'll often see, is this a beginner's training plan, intermediate training plan, advanced training plan? And it will have a goal, so a 10K, a faster 10K, your first marathon, something like that. So it's quite easy to kind of find something that might work for you. But I'm going to now give you my tips to allow you to get the most out of a running plan from a running magazine. And it's all about the FITT Principle. FITT stands for frequency, intensity, time and type. And it's the principle that within any given training period, you should only increase one of these at a time. So you either increase the frequency, you increase the intensity, you increase the time, or you increase the type. And if you do that with this principle, you're going to progress and you're going to decrease the risk of any injuries or burnout. So I want you to think of this FITT principle when you look at a training plan in a magazine and work out whether it's the right thing for you. So firstly, I want you to look at frequency. How many days do you run right now? If you run for 3 days a week, you want to find a plan that has 3 days a week running. You don't want to find one that has you running for 5 days and cross training for 2, because that's going to increase your chance of injury and can lead to burnout. So think about how many days do I run right now? How many days are in the plan? And make sure they match up. The second thing I want you to think about is intensity. So what type of runs do you do right now and what type of runs are in the plan? If your goal is to get faster, you don't want to have a plan that has you running easy runs all the time. You want some speed work in there. But if you don't do any speed work right now, you don't want to choose a plan that has you doing really hard, intense speed work sessions as part of kind of getting you faster. You need to match the intensity of the runs in the plan with the frequency and your goals. So if you currently run 5 to 6 days a week and your goal is to get faster, you might want to think about reducing how many days a week you run to maybe 4, and then increasing the intensity. So that way you've kind of got a better load across the week and it gives you more time to recovery. So intensity is just not about the kind of runs that you run right now, the kind of runs that are in the program, but also links with the frequency. Then think about time, and this is all about the time you spend running. Think about the distances that you run right now, or the length of time that you're out running for. If you're training for a marathon, but the longest you run so far is 10K, you don't want to choose a plan that has you starting off with a long run of 13 miles. That's much too big a leap for you, and that will lead to overload and possible injury. So instead, look for a plan that starts off with 10K and then gradually builds that distance until you get to that marathon start line. And this is a good time to also do a little bit of a reality check. So you might like the idea of running 4 or 5 days a week, but you currently run 3. And you might like the idea of doing long midweek runs of an hour or more, but you currently do 30 minutes. So thinking about that kind of time, and then thinking about also if the plan's going to fit in with your life. So looking at your work commitments, your family commitments, everything else, and maybe you like the idea of running for an hour on a Tuesday night, but actually you can only do 40 minutes because of other commitments. If you choose a plan that has you kind of doing your ideal running week without that little bit of reality check, that can lead to frustration, especially if you end up missing runs or skipping runs and you just feel like, oh, I just can't get on top of this training plan. So do have a little bit of a reality check. Is this plan actually going to fit into my life? And then lastly, I want you to think about type. So type in the FITT principle stands for the type of activity. So swimming, running, cycling. And at first you might think this isn't relevant to me because I'm running, that's the type that I'm doing. But most plans will also include a day for cross training or a day for strength training. Now, in most magazines, they won't tell you what this is. They'll just say cross training day, strength training day, and leave it up to you to kind of work out what you're doing. Both cross training and strength training are really important for you to kind of build the strength that you need as a runner, but it can be like a bit confusing about what am I doing. So I just want you to think back to that FITT, the first three letters of FITT, frequency, intensity, and time, to work out what type you're going to do. So if you don't already do cross training or strength training, you probably don't want to start doing, 3 or 4 days a week on top of all your running. You probably only want to start with 1 or 2 days. Similarly, you want to think about the intensity. So if you have got a plan that is full of quite intensive runs because you're going to go for a speed, you're going to go for a PB, that's your goal, then doing some strength training that's also really intensive can be counterproductive and mean that you're kind of overloading your muscles and not giving yourself time to recover. So it might mean that the type of strength training you do is a little less intense, but you're still building that strength that you need for running. Similarly, with the cross training, you might enjoy cycling, but you might think, oh, actually, I'm going to keep my cycling, my cross training at an easy pace because all my runs are very intensive. So those are my tips to help you get the best out of a magazine running plan. They definitely have a place and they definitely help people get their goals and get to achieve their goals. But I think with these little tweaks, with thinking about the frequency, the intensity, the time and type, when you're looking at a plan, when you're trying to choose a plan, that can really make the difference between an okay plan and a fantastic plan. And of course, if you do decide that you actually want a more bespoke training plan and the support and accountability that comes with working with a running coach, you can always get in touch with me. If you have any questions, type them below. And if you have any takeaways from this, if there's anything that kind of gave you that light bulb moment where you thought, yes, okay, that's what I've been missing when I've been looking at these magazine running plans. Now I know how to get the most out of them. Do comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the latest from me, Coach Nicola.